It's a must-win game for Praggnanandhaa, who's just put his jacket on the chair. He's taking on Fabiano Caruana here in 5+2 blitz. Fabi won a very roller coaster game just before this, but now he has a chance to simply win this and move into the semi-finals. Will Pragg collapse here, or will he strike back to take the match into the Armageddon? Only time will tell. Let's have a look at the position and how the pieces are placed. We have a knight, bishop, rook, queen, knight, king and rook. The players shake hands and off we go. Pragg opens with c4, Fabi plays c6. The bishops have opened up on this diagonal. And Pragg now, I think a very decent move is to play d4 in the center. You could also play h4, which is always interesting when the rook is on the h file. You can also bring your knight out to b3. But I guess Pragg is trying to think a bit too much here right out of the opening on second move itself. He's not so sure which pawn he wants to advance. Yeah, it's actually a tricky question for sure. Maybe b3 isn't that silly to put the bishop on b2 and then the other bishop on this diagonal. But it is a huge long thing here for Praggnanandhaa, and generally you don't have players thinking so long on second move. He plays b4, but it took him roughly a minute, and this is not a good move because after d5, pawn takes pawn, bishop b2, you will see that black actually is taking up the full center with his pawns, and this is not good news. Fabi almost has a close to decisive advantage, and this is what happens in freestyle chess. If you make one wrong move in the opening, you don't even realize that you have slid into a lost position. And now it's very important for Pragg to fight, because all that Fabi needs is a draw here and he is won the match. h5 played, h4 is the threat. Pragg plays h4 to stop the pawn from moving forward. And right now, Fabi now has to decide how to place the remaining pieces. Knight g6 feels like a right move. Also possible here is to jump in with the knight to c4. That's what he does. He attacks the bishop on b2. Pragg can put his bishop back on a1, but then the knight could jump to a3 and win this light squared bishop, which is quite important. So then bishop c1 seems like the only move, but that seems so sad. That doesn't look good at all. And Pragg is being pushed to the limit here right out of the opening itself. Fabi is making him take uncomfortable decisions. He goes back bishop c1. And Caruana now has to decide how to place his other knight here. Maybe knight g6 makes a lot of sense. Caruana has 4 minutes 24 seconds. Pragg has 3 minutes 32 seconds here. Another very good idea here is to put your pawn on b6 to bishop b7, keeping the knight away. Yes, he plays it. b6 is on the board. And Pragg now pushes the knight away. The knight comes back to d6, a good square for the knight. And how is Pragg going to continue here? I mean, he could castle potentially like this, but then the h4 pawn would become weak. So you have to do that carefully. a3 played. The knight comes to g6. Maybe you go back bishop b2. Yes, he plays bishop a2 first on the long diagonal here. And Fabi brings his bishop out to e6. A useful move there. The knight comes to d2. A good move by Praggnanandhaa, opening up his bishop towards the central pawn. f6 played here, bolstering the center. Black has a very solid center. Bishop b2 played here by Praggnanandhaa. And black has to decide how to place the piece. Now you can castle here. Rook c8 also possible. Castling feels wrong because you give up the h5 pawn, although it might not be a very big deal. He plays queen f7 and Pragg plays pawn to e3. Knight goes back to e7. Pragg is a tremendous fighter. That's what everyone knows. So even though he's slightly worse right now, he's going to fight till the bitter end. The question is, where is his play coming from for a win? Because to win such a position is not easy. Rook c1 played. And now Caruana castles here. A brave decision, but I think it's clear to him that the h5 pawn is now nicely defended by the queen and he doesn't have to worry about it. Pragg has an interesting maneuver here to go queen d1, attacking the pawn on h5 with his knight and queen, and then slowly move over to the queen side to b3 or to a4. He goes queen d1, bishop g4, the queen comes out to b3, putting pressure on this diagonal. And he plays rook c8, offering a trade of rooks, short castling here by Pragg. Bishop comes back to e6. But now can we push the pawn to e4? Because you can't take it. Your bishop on e6 would be hanging. And Pragg deciding whether to push the pawn onto e4 or not. I believe it seems like a good move. Pragg down to 2 minutes. Fabiano has 3 minutes 11 seconds. Pragg needs to start moving quickly. He pushes his pawn to e4. And now the d pawn is under a bit of pressure, although it's firmly defended for the time being with the knight on e7 and the bishop on e6. Black has this structure whereby, the dark squared bishop is a bit limited. Maybe it can also start moving at some point. For now, the position has become quite balanced in nature after Pragg's last move e4. And Fabi is also taking his time. Pragg down to 1 minute 42 seconds here. What is Fabiano Caruana going to do next? He plays queen to g6. Well, a tricky move, but one must remember that the bishop on e6 is undefended. He wants to go bishop f7 and then take. That's the point. That's how he's going to solve this issue. Wow. That's a very interesting way for Fabi to solve, and that's why Pragg has stopped here and started to think. He goes pawn to d4. He's being super aggressive, super alert. But now with this move, he has weakened the c4 square for the black knight. Will Fabi jump in straight away? Takes on d4, bishop takes d4, has been taken. And now Caruana goes knight to c4. He plonks his knight into the central square, and now Pragg is again having a question. You take here on d5 is a mistake because knight takes d2 attacks the queen. But if you take on c4, then d takes c4. Already black seems to be doing excellently in this position. So then the other option is to simply move the knight away, but then you still have d takes e4. And this is not possible because this is a pin here I can take already. That's not working. So what to do here for Pragg? He can feel the pressure and he's almost on the verge of being relegated to the lower bracket if he loses this match. No longer can fight for the first place in this tournament. Will he be losing this match? He goes rook c2 and he's down to 26 seconds. Caruana now can play bishop f7 to keep the bishop protected. He can also go bishop f4 to put even more pressure on d2. Many options here. What is he going to play? Caruana can also sense that things are going his way, and a few more accurate moves and he would have the full point in his bag. I mean, the full match in his bag. But I guess with Pragg taking so much time and having just 26 seconds, even Fabi is slowing down a bit. Knight c6 played. He's hitting the bishop. The bishop comes back to a1. Fabi has 1 minute 19 seconds. Pragg has just 23 seconds here. And Fabi once again slows down. He now pushes pawn to b5, an excellent move, cementing the knight on c4 square. Pragg, who's down to 20 seconds, needs to make a move quickly. Cannot think too much. He takes on d5, bishop d5, then bishop goes back to b1. I love this. He's actually setting up a discovery with the bishop here. The rook has to move. So he goes queen f7. And I guess now Pragg has a beautiful move and he finds it. Queen d3 with the idea of rook c4 and queen h7 mate. Excellent chess by Praggnanandhaa, creating his own chances after having almost a lost position out of the opening. How is Praggnanandhaa managing to do this? Well, the answer is simple. He just stays alert for all the possibilities on each move. And when he gets them, he takes them. He grabs them with both his hands. He puts his rook back. He's now attacking the g6 pawn. Knight e5 might be a better idea here. He goes bishop f4 and Pragg decides to sacrifice an exchange. He takes on c4. Wow! Taking on c4 is a very interesting move. Now remember, if you take here on c1, I have an intermezzo knight d6. So that's the reason why you have to take on c4, b takes c4, and he goes queen g6 takes, bishop takes. He takes the exchange. Knight e5 attacking the bishop. The bishop comes to f5 attacking the rook here. And now Pragg has assessed his position so beautifully. He's understood that he has compensation. Rook goes here, knight takes the pawn. Amazing chess. The c pawn is dangerous, of course, just 3 steps away from queening. But Pragg feels his bishops are excellent. He goes bishop f7, hitting the knight with 6 seconds now. Caruana. Pragg finds bishop e4, an absolutely incredible move. And now finds another tactic. Bishop takes e5. Now you see why he played his bishop back, so that it was not attacked by the rook. Rook comes up to c3. He brings this rook to d8. But these two bishops are just outstanding. He starts pushing his pawns on the king side. Check, king comes up. He plays his rook to e1. Pawn to f3, defending the bishop. Check, king goes up, rook a2. Now the a3 pawn is falling. He goes back rook c1 and now brings his rook to d1 so that he can enter in. Rook comes to e6, king f4, defending the bishop. h5, oh my goodness, this pawn is super strong. h6, he's going h7, the c pawn is too strong. Bishop b3 attacking the rook. And now h7 by Praggnanandhaa, king f7, rook check. And Fabi cannot do anything. He resigns the game. Praggnanandhaa scores a very important win, forcing the Armageddon. He's tied the scores. Incredible scenes in Las Vegas. Hotel win in the Lafite ballroom. Praggnanandhaa is so relieved. He managed to equalize. Meanwhile, Hans Niemann also beat Sindarov 2-0 to reach the semi-finals. And now, let's see how the Armageddon pairings happen and the stuff goes on behind the scenes.
This is 1 second, additional second after move 60. So see how from 61. Okay?
Okay. Here you go.
Yeah, you can give it up for the players. Welcome back to our very first Armageddon been no draws between these two players, such a fighting match. This is the only match that goes to Armageddon, and Zealand won this match against Zindaba. And what's going to happen now is we're going to do a bidding for the time control. So the player of these two who bids lower will get the time they bid, they will get black, and they will have draws. So our chief arbiter, Garrett, will now give the low pass to both players, both of them win by exactly time that's under 5 minutes. And the player who is lower, as I said, will get back and will get draws. So we get for Pragg 4 minutes 27 and for Fabi 4:02. So Fabi will play with black. He will have 4 minutes and 2 seconds and a draw speeding through to a jackpot. World Championship is coming up in September. Give it up for him. He's ready. Ready.
Gentlemen, 1 minute to the start. 1 minute.
It's now time for the Armageddon here. Praggnanandhaa has 5 minutes and must win his game, while Fabiano Caruana has 4 minutes and draw odds. It's going to be very important and interesting to see who will come out on top and move to the semi-finals here to fight for the first place of $200,000 in Las Vegas Grand Slam of the Freestyle Chess 2025. The players put on their headphones so that they are not disturbed, and the game is about to begin. You have a knight, a bishop, rook, king, rook, queen, knight, and so a very interesting position. Pragg opens the game with 1 c4 and Fabi responds back with c6. Literally the same variation that they saw in the previous game. And what will Pragg play here? It was some b4 and d5 stuff that had happened in that game. This time he goes for d4. He doesn't play for b4. He takes his time. And now f5 by Caruana, a good move. b3 played, and Fabi already getting an opening advantage. How does he manage to do that? Every single game that he plays, Caruana is able to get a very good opening position. d5, fantastic move. Pragg takes, queen takes on d5. And now some pressure. He goes knight to c2, and already if you look at the clock timings, Caruana has 3 minutes 33 seconds, Pragg down to 4 minutes 12 seconds. Knight g6. I would imagine that having the white pieces is much better than having black in Armageddons in freestyle chess, because there's no opening theory. Chances of it ending in draw are much less. But still, Caruana chose that option. Perhaps, he thinks he can actually hold it here against Pragg. Castles by black. In fact, he doesn't even have to think about holding. He's doing so well right now in the opening. Queen f2 played by Praggnanandhaa, and maybe Fabi can even push his pawn down to f4 to stop this knight from coming out. He goes e5 and Pragg castles. Knight comes out to b6. Still taking this pawn is absolutely wrong because of queen d1. So knight comes out to g3. Well, some pressure on the f5 point, but nothing serious here. And maybe the best move here is e4. There's also a possibility to play f4, but that gives up the e4 square. So he goes e4. Good move by Caruana. And maybe now a very interesting move is bishop a3 to hit the rook. Get it out from the f file. Praggnanandhaa having some more time as compared to Caruana here. Goes knight to e3, attacking the queen on d5. The queen comes back to e6. And this is a mistake. He should have gone queen b5 or maybe queen f7, because now Pragg can take on f5. That would be a very strong move, and he finds it. Knight f5, rook f5, knight takes, queen takes. You can take with the pawn. He takes with the bishop, which is also quite good. Pragg actually managing to get a rook and two pawns for two minor pieces, but these two bishops amazing, and central pawns ready to roll. He brings his knight into the center, and now e4 very quickly played, but that's a mistake because of knight c3. If rook d3, a2 is hanging, and I guess knight c3 is just very strong. Pragg should have played bishop d2 first, but he pushed e4, and now Fabi can jump in. But he's calculating here. He goes knight f4. This is not a good move at all, because now Pragg can push the knight away with g3. Not immediately because of check and you lose the queen, but king h1 and g3 could be a good idea. Yes, he plays king h1. Bishop c7 played. And now g3. But he pushes e5. This is not a good move. Queen, because now look at this. d5 square is weakened. When you push the knight away, it'll go here. Why didn't you do this just right away when his knight doesn't have that square? Pragg actually making this big error, giving up the d5 square, and of course Fabi takes it, because all that knights need are stable outposts. If the knights get stable outposts, they are doing already very well. And now Praggnanandhaa, only thing he can do is start pushing his kingside pawn somehow. If he can manage to do that, he would be doing quite okay. He pushes f4 and bishop h3 played. Now the thing is, if you move your rook away from here on the f file, then there would be a very firm blockade on the light squares. So maybe the better idea is just to push the pawn to f5, giving up an exchange. Will Praggnanandhaa play this? Yes, he does. f5 on the board, and Pragg has 1 minute 37 seconds. Fabi has 2 minutes. He goes bishop g5, attacking the rook on d8. In spite of those mistakes, Pragg is still in with a fighting chance. Plays queen to f3. Fabi offers the bishop for trade. He goes bd2. Maybe bishop c1 was better. Queen g4 played. And now a very, very powerful move if Fabi can find his knight e6, because you can't protect the pawn on d4. You can't take the knight because the rook is hanging. A very, very good move there, knight e6. But it's so difficult to find. He finds it. Fabiano Caruana finds this move, knight e6. Brilliant chess. And now Pragg would have loved to defend it with his bishop, but wherever he plays, he's losing the pawn. Goes king g2, but now pushes e6. The queen is attacked. How to deal with this? Well, Caruana needs to move now. He goes queen e7. He has 1 minute 9 seconds. Pragg has 1 minute 15 seconds. Knight goes back to f6. The reason why Black is now totally winning is because all his pieces are protected by one another. He has very good spaces and for the squares. H3, King H3, Queen D5, and Caruana plays their Bishop C3 by Pragg. And slowly and steadily, Fabi is outplaying here. Pragg has some final hopes. Knight F3, Queen to F4 played. He gives a check. If the king has to go up, then Queen G2 already super risky. So he gives up an exchange. Bishop takes G1. But now, Black is a rook up. Wow. And these two pawns on F5 and E6 are not going to help. The only thing that can help Pragg is time now. He has 40 seconds. His opponent has 46. If Pragg can get him to flag, he would win it. Queen F3. But it seems unlikely because the opponent still, Fabi has 42 seconds. And now the players start playing their moves super quick. Bishop E1. He pushes G6, King G3. Takes. Bishop comes in, king moves, bishop back. And now all that they have to do is move quickly on time. Brings his rook in, bishop back, rook plays forward, knight moves in, he moves his rook. Bishop G3, can hardly even see what's happening. King H1 played, takes. Knight G3 takes. Bishop C6. He goes BD7, King G2. And the pawns are going nowhere. Black is winning this. He brings his rook in. Plays here, takes and resigns the game. Fabiano Caruana wins it. Praggnanandhaa has to lose this one. And Fabi goes through to the semi-finals. What an Armageddon game this was. Insane. And he, after 60th move, there was 1 second increment. You can see Pragg is visibly upset. But he can be proud of himself for giving a great fight to Fabiano Caruana, who has a smile on his face. I'll leave you now to all that happened in the venue after this victory.
Today, and hopefully we'll see you again in the future.
Brooklyn, Brooklyn, vamos, forza, forza italiano.
Played 10 hours of chess, but you're through to the semi-finals after a crazy match against Praggnanandhaa. What does it mean to you to win at the end of the road in the Armageddon?
Yeah, of course, it's amazing. I've had a few of these matches, but none quite this long, and also with so many swings. You know, losing the first game and then coming back, and then also losing with white. I thought it should be over at that point, but then somehow coming back in the rapid and then it reversed. You know, and the Armageddon was also crazy. You know, it was very, very complicated, and then he was also trying to flag me. But at some point I looked at the clock, I saw that I have 17 seconds. I looked like a few minutes later, I still have 17 seconds. I thought, okay, I'm probably not going to get flagged.
I think you're the only player I've ever seen Armageddon in freestyle. In Weissenhaus, you were the only player, if I'm not mistaken, to play in Armageddon against Sindaur. Do you think your extra experience compared to your younger opponents helps in these spots?
Yeah, I've even had 2 matches against Levon as well, and it ended in the same way. I got black in Armageddon every single time. Yeah, I think that I realized that probably it's good to have black. I don't know why, but it feels better to have black even down a minute. In each game, I felt like in each game that I've played in these matches where I went to Armageddon, I've always felt like it's easier to play a bit faster with black. You have less to worry about. Like with white, you always have to consider so many things, and it gets in your head that you have to like get an advantage or something. So it feels a bit easier to play freely with black, which is why I went a bit lower. I wasn't even disappointed when I saw he was like nearly 430. Of course, I could have probably gotten an extra 20 seconds out of it, but I was happy just to play black. That's why I went a bit low.
And Vladimir, we're gonna let you go to dinner, but one final question: your thoughts on the matchup against Hans Niemann tomorrow?
I didn't even realize I would play Hans. I wasn't sure if it would be Hans or Levon. Well, of course, it's going to be very tough. I mean, he's been playing well. He beat Sindarov. Okay, it wasn't super smooth, let's say, but it was a tough match, but still relatively convincingly. And yeah, he's obviously in good shape, and he's a very, very tough opponent.
Fabi, congratulations on a stunning day of chess, and best of luck for tomorrow.
Thank you.